First things first, Aaron. How are you?
I'm pretty good, a little worn down, and I feel pretty dizzy because there was so much wind, as we were talking before we started, in this country, and I think in a lot of Europe it's crazy weather right now. And so our bus was just swaying back and forth. So right now I kind of feel like I'm still on a boat, like I'm boat sick or seasick, I should say. But other than that, I'm great. Happy to be alive.
Do these, do your surroundings influence the way you perform? In a way, for instance, like if the weather's tough like it is in Europe now?
Yeah, I would say weather plays a pivotal role in most things I do, especially back home with surfing and chasing different swell around and correct wind patterns that benefit the waves to be better. And then, being from California, Southern California, it never rains and there's really no weather at all. It's just sunny, which most people would probably be, I'm sure, jealous of when they see this, right. But that gets old too, just like anything else. And you want some weather, and we desperately need water because we're in a serious drought. So I enjoy traveling around the world and experiencing weather. Like, I have some jackets I never get to wear back home, so it's nice to put this on. And I would say, walking around the wind and sort of the cold outside may make it, possibly a darker performance, maybe. You never know.
All right.
Then again, I may want to celebrate the joy of life because it's so gloomy outside. Who knows?
Okay. Well, before we talk about the new record run,
yeah,
I'd like to go back a little bit. Both your parents played guitar, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
What type of music would they play?
My dad would play mostly Spanish songs, and classical guitar kind of stuff. And my mom would play mostly children's songs because she was a school teacher. So I learned pretty, a little bit more complicated rhythms from my dad, and then sort of the essential, learning chords from my mom.
Was it, in a sense, a given that you'd pick up the guitar in that because your parents played?
I guess because it was in the house, yeah. But make no mistake about it, I'm not a great guitar player at all. I just know how to play most of the chords, so I'm able to write songs with it, But I never really practiced to become a shredder or someone who could solo and blow your mind right now if there was a guitar in my hand. That's not me. I could just play, I suppose, what I hear in my mind to write songs.
What did you get out of it initially then? Was it a vehicle to write songs with?
Yeah, already? It became a vehicle to write songs, but initially I just got to, something to bond with my dad,
Okay.
At the time we were mostly into sports, and we'd be playing catch outside, baseball, catch, right. And throwing the football around a little bit, American football, and tried regular football, soccer we call it. I was terrible at it. I don't know why. Maybe I'm not that great with my feet, So it was fun to do something a bit more creative and artistic, outside of the normalcy of, sports, I guess.
Right.
So it was a release for sure.
What did you start writing your own material immediately?
I realized recently that I think I did. I don't remember what I wrote, but I wasn't good enough to play the other guitar songs. I couldn't play a Led Zeppelin song or, a Metallica song or something on guitar.
Right.
So I think I was left to kind of just play whatever I heard in my head. So as early as I can remember, I was writing little riffs and little, chord progressions, I guess. Never thinking they would matter or could be anything. And I'm sure they couldn't still now if I remember them, but I guess my lack of ability at guitar forced me to write my own song, so I had something to play.
What then did you get out of writing? What compelled you to write songs?
Well, initially, like I said, I was just trying to fill the void of space, with my hands, and then I think in high school is when I first, more sixth grade, so I guess I was 12, 13 is when I started to actually care to write songs, because I met a drummer friend in school, and he played drums, and I kind of could play guitar, so of course I told him, yeah, man, I'm good at guitar, we could do this, you know, and then we sat down and jammed, and he was a much better drummer than I was at guitar, so that was good for me to step into the ring, so to speak, with someone that was already better than me. Musically, I had more of an instinct of writing, I guess. I don't know why, but I did, and he was a better drummer, better musician, so we were able to help each other out, I think.
At that point, had your mind been set on music?
No way. At that point, I was just doing something that was really fun. It was like, you know, the first time you skateboard or surf or do something, you know, outside of school to kind of get away from, you know, everyone, I suppose, and your parents, and kind of rebel a little bit.
Right.
So, yeah, that was that.
What was the trajectory for your future at that point? What were you planning about?
I didn't know what I was going to do. At that point, I was a really good athlete, you know. But I've said this before, I matured early, not mentally, but physically. I was big, you know. I was the same size I am now when I was 12. So I'd already fully developed, you know. I was already starting to get armpit hair and stuff, which was terrifying. I'm like, what is this? Why am I sweating, you know? And so I think, you know, there was some natural ability there, but mostly I was just the bigger kid in the school, so I dominated in youth sports.
Right.
At a certain point, I realized that everybody else was getting as big as me, if not bigger and better, and I just didn't. I remember summer would come around in high school, and so summer's coming around, it's time for me and my buddies to go surfing, but with all the sports, American football and baseball, they wanted you to practice through the summer.
Right.
So they wanted you to be a slave to their school, even when school was out. Fuck that, you know. So I quit all sports and started surfing and concentrating on music.
Was that a turning point?
Yeah, it was right around that time. I think I was 15 or 16, where I realized. I mean, I was always into music, but I realized that there was no way I was gonna take sports seriously. I wasn't gonna
sacrifice the music.
Yeah, well, I just didn't think that there was really a career out of it, and it wasn't that fun anymore. It became a little bit too political and too. I didn't like the coaches either. A lot of the coaches were really bad people. In particular, there was this coach named Spadero. Coach Spadero was his name. I've never talked about this. I don't know why I'm choosing to now, but I guess I'm just in a strange mood. But he really belittled me in high school football and said the meanest, most embarrassing things you could say to someone, you know, at a very vulnerable age.
Right.
And I'd like to thank him now, actually, because he kind of, you know, really turned me off to playing sports, and certainly having to be under some sort of authority figure, a coach or a boss. I mean, don't get me wrong, I had some great coaches along the way. My dad was a great coach when he was my coach, and there were several others that were had a lot of wisdom to share, but he said some terrible stuff, and you know, I hope to God that he's not involved in youth anymore, because he's a really, really bad person, and I'll never forget some of the things he said, but it inspired me kind of, you know. I think we need to be pushed and hit obstacles throughout life to become great, you know, and so yeah, I remember going home after one practice in particular and thinking, I'm not going to do this anymore. I just quit, you know. And it was a good feeling, because then I could surf more and write songs.
And these kind of things that would happen, would they turn up in your music then? These feelings?
I think so. Yeah, I think that all of the things that have happened to me in my life have, one way or another, found a way to infiltrate, you know, some of the lyrics I write and some of the feelings I have, you know. Not all of it, of course, is about my childhood or teen years, but, you know, it's what makes us who we are, you know, the journey of life, I guess.
Because you mentioned the word authority, and you've been in bands previously to Awolnation, but you kind of flourished when it was more you on your own, and you got to make these decisions for yourself. So is there a similarity between that where you found yourself a bit more freedom when you went on your own path?
Yeah, I had total freedom, total control, and nothing to lose.
Right.
So that created an open canvas to kind of do whatever I wanted to do. I knew I had an ability to write songs that were catchy, regardless of how weird they are or normal they can be. I knew that they would always be catchy and poppy, and I hope that doesn't come across in a bad way. I don't mean like, in the way of, Justin Bieber's of the world and stuff. I mean, just sort of memorable melodies, really. And so I've always liked that kind of music most, and that kind of
Where do you
singing.
think this came from?
I think growing up in the 80s, being around Michael Jackson's music, not literally, but, listening to the radio and hearing Michael Jackson, Prince,
Right.
Cyndi Lauper, and then, the explosion of rap music in the 80s, and then, so forth and so on. Even the hardcore music and the punk rock music and metal I liked, there was a catchiness about it, Even though most people would maybe be turned off to certain kind of screaming, there was a certain kind of cadence in that I enjoyed that was repetitive sometimes, that made me a fan, I guess.
And you mentioned having this blank canvas to fill at that point. Did you know what you wanted to fill it with?
I did, yeah. I knew that I was just going to do whatever I wanted, Sometimes sing aggressively, sometimes sing sweetly, And I didn't know what it was I was going to do. I just knew that I knew that I wasn't going to hold back from any sort of style or genre. In the past, in other bands, it's tricky when you're writing with two other guys, in some cases three other guys.
Right.
They'll tell you, they'll have their opinion. So let's say I go for this ambitious vocal. Maybe one of the guys before would have said, "Nah, that's too heavy," or I was going for something softer, maybe more of my falsetto, and one of the other guys says, "I wish it was more aggressive," and then you're like, "Geez, I don't know what." So you're trying to please other people instead of pleasing yourself. And I think only when you can look in the mirror and do the best you can do, and make music that you would like, only then can you achieve the best you're capable of, maybe.